Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of We Need to Have a Talk. It's the show where we try to deconstruct completely undeconstructible movies. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Justin Tapp.
Hello.
Gabriel Sandoval.
Hey, guys.
And Lauren Wells can't be with us right now, but we have a special guest, local Austin comedian Tim Honker.
Hi there.
What's going on, bud?
Nothing much. I can't wait to talk about this piece of shit.
Yeah.
Can we curse on here?
Yes.
Okay,
oh,
sweet.
by all means. We
could. This would be a 2-minute.
I'm on here.
Yeah.
Oh, with Justin
Forever
on
until
here?
the end.
Oh, man, we would be screwed if we couldn't curse, especially with this. We watched this thing. I sat down and watched it, you know? And when you watch this, you can't unwatch it.
I don't know. In a way, I kind of feel like making fun of this movie is kind of like beating up a retarded kid. You know what I mean? It's like
It's fun.
Well,
why would you want to do that? You know what I mean? It's so obviously. Yeah.
we watched.
Actually, should probably cut the retarded kid part out.
No, that's in there. We actually went out of our way to get on Netflix Instance and watch the John Carpenter's Ghost of Mars, which came out, I believe, in 2001, starring Natasha Henstridge and Ice Cube. And a sci-fi action thriller, you know, which could not be
Less sci-fi, less action.
It's got action, but it's not sci-fi, and you can't cast a more inappropriate character in a sci-fi movie than Ice Cube.
Oh, absolutely. It was like they brought him in to do comedy, and like he was giving one-liners.
The funny thing is,
I think improvising.
I think Ice Cube could work in a sci-fi context,
really?
just not in this sci-fi context.
Oh, he's
My
got
God.
to work.
I like Ice
He
Cube.
might be
I
better
love
than
Ice
Chris
Cube.
Tucker, you know, but
a lot better than
Fifth
Chris
Element.
Tucker.
Fifth Element. He did a good job in that.
Right.
For that.
Really? I don't
for,
agree.
for that like kind of role, he did fine.
Dude,
But
I hated
okay, so with Ice
that
Cube,
movie and that guy.
Oh, okay,
in
well,
that movie.
another day.
Bruce
Okay.
Willis, dude. Bruce Willis.
just setting up how this movie starts off. You get this intro where, you know, they establish what Mars is. It's 200 years in the future. It's being terraformed.
84% complete.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they have some weird percentile and all sorts of other weird stats that are completely meaningless. Don't pay attention to
It
anything.
seemed
Look
like
at
it was
the
a lot
computer
less than
bots.
84% complete
Yeah,
to me.
yeah. It was. Yeah.
It-
I was wondering. They're like, we only have 10 years left, and then I was like, really, really? Okay, you set
A
your
desert
goals.
planet where everything's red.
Goal
That was
achieved.
it.
That was our goal.
Yeah.
Goal
We were
achieved.
going for desolation.
Terraform
you know?
done. Is it red? Is it desolate?
Does it have
What do you
trains?
want?
Yeah, trains.
Does it have like a fucking 1940s like steamer? Oh yeah, sure. Then we're done here, you know. But the movie starts off with you get this scene where I guess a weird sci-fi Council of Nine gather in this really shitty looking room. That's the first thing I want to point out. The sets in this movie look fucking atrocious.
It's a bunch of flat walls with no decoration. It's like
but-
drywall painted gray or red, and that's about it.
But it even goes beyond that. It's like the lighting, the way that they light the rooms, that just highlights how bad everything looks, and everything just looks really flat.
Well, I think it's interesting to say this movie was made in what 2001.
Yes.
Yeah, it came out 2 weeks before 9/11.
I don't. I
looked
think,
it up.
Which makes it the second worst thing to happen to America.
I had a
in
friend.
2001.
I had a
2001.
in September 2011.
So
Wow,
really, we're gonna blame this whole movie on September
no,
11.
no. But I was gonna say
it's been a while.
I think I'm not even sure you could make a movie this shitty that looked this shitty anymore.
I don't think it's possible.
I think with the modern technology the way it is, and like the ability to edit like in your fucking laptop or whatever, you could make a movie like we could right now. We could go to fucking Best Buy and buy one of those Canon 5Ds or whatever, and we could shoot a movie that looked better than that movie.
Yeah, spend about
with
$200 on red lights. And
Well, no, I mean just in general,
Trains
just
and
make a
makeup.
movie
Yeah,
that looked better than that
model
movie.
trains,
It
yeah.
wouldn't,
I
don't mean about Mars, just any.
I agree. No, and the fact that it's set on Mars makes me think that it should have made it easier to make it, because Mars isn't like, it's not like Lord of the Rings. They don't have to go to New Zealand and be like, oh, that looks like fucking Rivendell.
Yeah.
It's a desert, and there's plenty of desert, on this planet that you could film and make it look like a planet, like a planet from outer space. But somehow they failed on that.
They went to the desert, right? It was who
Yeah,
was it telling
it was
me?
shot in
Yeah.
New Mexico gypsum mine, and they used a
but
biodegradable
they died,
red
yeah.
dye, and they dyed a whole area. There's photos online on John Carpenter's website, and it shows like this red patch, and the set was really of the town was not that big. It was really small.
Well, it didn't look big.
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
movie.
it was
Well,
like
the problem is,
one corridor.
It
of
looked like it
buildings.
was inside a soundstage. Like whatever they did, they robbed the movie of any kind of sense.
It was
of,
all at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the whole movie was
largesse.
at night.
It is. It's all at
And
night.
it shows-
Were you expecting like dancers to come out like make them laugh? You know?
No, I was wondering if it was on a soundstage
Yeah.
because the sky was pitch black. There was no stars.
It looked like Planet Hell, which was the stage that was what they used to call on TNG. They would call there was the sound stage where they would do all their shitty planets they would go to, and it was the same soundstage every time. They would just convert it to whatever new planet it was, and the joke was on the set, and then it was called Planet Hell. It's like we're shooting that on Planet Hell, and they would just always go with it. That to me, that's exactly what it looked like. I mean, that could have been 1989, fucking Wesley Crusher down there. You know what I'm saying? And for maybe from in that context. Juxtaposed with a badass TNG storyline and Captain Picard and some really cool shots of the Enterprise, maybe it would have not been so embarrassing. But, woo,
Yeah,
2001, and it's John Carpenter. Like
he made the thing.
This is a guy he's an American icon.
Well, let's also be honest. That movie is The Thing remade. It's the exact same fucking story.
It is the
you
thing.
know what I mean?
It is the
group
thing.
of folks get involved with some shit, find it, fucking destroys them, and then some other guys find that. And then they discover and blah, 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 destroys. The only difference is...
But why is it so
No.
bad?
This was much more like an allegory to like Manifest Destiny and like America,
No,
Americans like plowing across
Okay.
the country and killing Native Americans,
We'll
and
get
then
to
the
we'll
curse.
get to that later. But so the start at the onset of this movie, Natasha Henstrom's character is brought into this room, and they're questioning her about what's happened. About
yeah.
She's definitely the high point of this movie. But they're
She's
questioning.
the only high point.
Yeah.
I will
And
say the
her
one thing this
outfit.
movie does, and she's not even particularly shot well, but she is so unbelievably smoking fine in this movie that even when you're just like looking at her, you're like,
Yeah,
how is this girl this fine? And I didn't spend a lot more time thinking about her back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like,
I like how you're saying it as fine.
boy, man, she is.
Was I?
This
Was
is
I?
a foxy day. Like, oh, no. I got that too, but it was that initial, god damn, she's hot, was instantly plowed over by the very first flash. This movie all takes place in flashbacks. And in flashbacks of flashbacks, and random flashbacks for characters that you should not give a shit that they're having a flashback. Like, there's so much going on with the story, with how the story is being presented, not with the story, but how the story is being presented, that it was just so confusing to me. And at the very start, when they're talking to her about what happened at the mine, there's a lot of like weird exposition that's going on there, like, oh, we found trace amounts of drugs in her. It's like, oh, so now she's a druggie, and that's gonna play some role in this, and like, all this other weird stuff.
it was also the whole weird, like, this is like a matriarchal society now.
Oh yeah,
kind
it's
of
all
thing.
run by women.
That weird
Well,
subplot.
But
that
women
they
are still
touched on.
treated so shitty, and they can still no. Like even what's his name, Jason Statham was like he
Yes,
was just
Jason
talking
Statham's
dirty.
in
He
this
was
movie.
like, "You want my dick in you," or like whatever he's saying, and he's treating his
Well,
like
I think
superior.
what's awesome
like,
though
shit.
is that it worked.
It worked.
It totally worked. I was like, holy shit, dude, he's gonna make this happen.
But it wasn't just Statham, because Pam Grier, she was the first one that went to her. It was like, and she was like, we're gonna need you straight for this operation. And Henstrom was like, I'm as straight as an arrow. She's like, it's a shame. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
Like right off the bat, you're gonna fucking try to les out on this train. You just loaded onto this thing.
Yeah.
But
It's,
like,
women are the head, like they're the upper class, but they still are totally like
they're whores.
stuck in 1950s.
They're
like,
whores. And like Jason
just
Statham can
shut
just
the fuck up.
absolutely. But they load onto this train, and this is the start of her flashback, and this is when you get to like the meat of the story.
Didn't that train look really shitty too?
Oh, it,
Everything
it looked like a piece
looked
Some of
of
those
shit.
little miniatures, like, it was like I felt like I was watching a little toy train go. 'Cause I was like, man, this is really lame.
I was wondering that if it was all miniatures, and then there was a scene where they were getting into the train. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, they actually did build
Well,
it.
they built
Oh.
like whatever it was when they were getting into it. And
Yeah.
I'm sure some of
Yeah.
it was a map, but I mean, any shot of the train moving was probably about a foot and a half long. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll give them credit for using miniatures and not CG, but God, they should have used CG.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do miniatures, do it right. Like that
Right.
movie Moon, they used miniatures in that movie. It looked fucking awesome. You know what I mean? These guys just, I don't know, man. And there's probably some special effects guy somewhere who's not listening to this. And I was like, fuck you. know?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when she's like talking about stuff, like one of the major things I caught in this movie, watching it, was nobody reacts to like anything that happens. So in the beginning, they say like, "Oh, well, I was doing such and such for the cartel," and it's just totally normal. There's a cartel on Mars, and that this law enforcement agency isn't doing dick about it, and they don't give a fuck. And then she says ghost train. Oh, it's a ghost train. Nobody reacts. You just say, oh, okay, yeah, it was a ghost train.
Yeah, I got
like,
the
that's a
impression
normal
that,
thing.
exactly.
Oh, it's just
Mars
a ghost
is just,
train.
it's rife with ghost trains. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's just like whatever crazy shit you make up. Yeah, that's normal. That happens here on Mars.
Why are there ghost trains? That's yeah. I didn't catch on that though. I didn't really catch on that. So I guess by watching the movie 5 times, just to figure out what was happening, I guess didn't pay off that well.
Yeah.
Man, the fact that you watched that movie 5 times.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, I had to because I kept
You
cutting
okay?
it off and getting back to it.
Yeah, I watched the beginning so many times. I just had to keep on going back to it. It was
I
terrible.
watched it in one sitting, but the last quarter of it, I started skipping ahead. I had it on my iPad, and I was just like, dibba-doo, dibba-doo, dibba-doo. And then if I went so far that, okay, all of a sudden there's guys who, now she's dead. Okay, I got to go back a little bit and figure out how she died, whatever.
Okay, so they're on this train. They get their mission. They've got the new guy, which is Jason Statham. He's in this movie, and he's probably the best actor in this movie, maybe.
And he still has hair.
He still has hair. Yeah,
He
I
was originally
impressed by
supposed to
that.
play Ice Cube's part, and then
Was he?
they recast him, and they brought Ice Cube in for stunt casting, and then put Jason Statham down as the other guy.
I like that decision. I don't know if I would have liked Jason Statham as Desolation Williams. That's his name.
Yeah,
That's the character's name, by the way.
Desolation Williams.
Desolation Williams, which is the stupidest fucking name I've ever heard for a character that's supposed to be a badass.
Honestly, though,
Honestly, he's black.
I would have taken maybe Jason Statham over Desolation Williams as Ice Cube in 2001. I think. You know what I
Really?
mean? Yeah, because the thing about Jason Statham is like you see him in all these movies now, and he's like a super badass. He's in it
is.
right now, and that makes sense because he wasn't that badass in this movie. And I was like, they've got this guy who's got a lot of his his brand is that he's a badass, and yet he's not all that badass in this movie. And it's like, if he's Desolation Williams,
Then he gets to be more of a
then
badass.
you get it. He's got the accent, you know what I mean? He's a little more mysterious. Ice Cube, while cool, wasn't that badass.
No,
You know
he
what I
wasn't.
mean?
If Ice Cube felt to me, it was like he was a continuation of his Doughboy character from Boys in the Hood. It's like at the end of a Boys in the Hood, instead of Doughboy being killed by Crips, like he gets sucked into a wormhole and ends up on Mars.
Or
200 years in the
he gets
future.
bitten by a vampire. and then he's forced to go to Mars for some reason.
And it's like, well, I'm on Mars now. I bet
200 years later.
because I'll start robbing people.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. Like his lines were always like delivered with that sort of 1990 gangster quality,
Yeah.
And I guess in that regard, I'm glad that there wasn't a lot of sci-fi technobabble because we've talked about this before, Justin, like how sci-fi sounds better with British accents.
It does.
I can only imagine. I haven't heard it yet, but I can only imagine that it sounds exponentially worse in 1990s ghetto lingo. Like if Luke Skywalker was from the hood, he's like, yo, I was just going to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters, That doesn't sell. That sells even less. And that's what Ice Cube's character was like, Desolation.
It's pretty good, dude. Yeah. That's a pretty good. I can just see like an instant, you know what I mean, where fucking Vader gets like all beaten up. He's on the ground and like Luke's like, "You got knocked the fuck out! You got knocked the fuck out!"
Oh,
Either that or that's what Vader says when he throws Palpatine over the thing.
Right.
Palpatine's like, "Oh!" He's like, "You got knocked the fuck out!" No, or Luke says it to Palpatine after Vader.
Luke says it to
Because it would never
Palpatine.
be the guy who did it. It'd be like
Right.
the.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow, that's another Ice Cube movie we just brought into this.
Yeah.
Wow, man, maybe too bad Chris Tucker wasn't in this movie. Maybe he should have been. But yeah, so
I would Doughboy or this character from Friday, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah,
totally,
I don't
totally
really know. I don't know
Friday.
if Ice Cube has that great of range as an actor.
Oh, he's always Ice Cube.
he's
Yeah.
good at being
He's
Ice Cube.
and that's it.
If
He's
you like
great
Ice
at being
Cube,
Ice
you
Cube.
enjoy watching Ice Cube.
Confession.
You know,
I watched Are We There Yet? And I like the movie. Generally speaking, as a dumb kids movie, it's not bad. But he plays Ice Cube in that movie. He's the same as Desolation Williams. It's like Desolation Williams babysitting a couple of kids,
Time traveling.
Damn, I like
Dimension
you already.
travel.
Then he
That's
punches
another
a kid
thing
in
I
the
gotta
face.
say. Desolation Williams is a very Old West name. If they were gonna do some kind of weird genre blending thing, they should have
Like
done
a
it a
Firefly
lot
thing?
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That totally didn't come through in the production design whatsoever. And you know what I mean? I'm not even a Firefly fan personally, but I mean I'm not gonna bag on it or anything. I just for whatever reason. But to me, it's like they're trying to they're trying to blend those genres. You know what I mean? And I get the impression that was maybe their intention a little bit. Ghost trains and fucking,
Well, they go.
you know.
When they arrive at the town that Desolation Williams, they're tasked with retrieving Williams because Williams is being held under suspicion of killing, I guess, a bank full of people, beheading them and hanging them upside down. And I don't know who caught him or why they held him up at a mining town.
Yeah.
Or why a mining town even has a jail cell. But they are tasked with retrieving Williams and bringing him back for a trial. So after that whole weird scene where everyone tries to fucking bang Natasha Henstridge on this train, they arrive at the mine town,
And she's tripping balls, right? Is that the point when she's on clear?
Yeah, she does. She does
Yeah,
whatever.
she sees
weird.
that
And she-
hallucination.
and yeah, all of this is, I guess, her telling her boss. I don't know why the fuck. If you're in like a military tribunal, you would be like, yeah, and so I took some drugs.
Well,
and I saw some shit. Like, why would you tell like you're gonna get court-martialed and shit
Yeah.
for that?
I
Just
don't-
own up to it.
I guess and that's another thing. Like, there's some things that I guess they don't really explain whether she told the tribunal this or not, but it's part of the flashback. So I guess you can only assume that she told them everything that we are seeing in the flashback.
Yeah.
But then again, we see flashbacks from characters that aren't her in these flashbacks. So there's no telling what we're supposed to be privy to.
That's
that
true.
That aren't her, and then it didn't tell her things.
Yeah,
it's
people that went off and did something and died and then never told them. It's like, how did she know that?
Right.
Maybe it's like a Kaiser Soze sort of thing. Like the end of then she gets up and it's all a made up story or something.
Yeah.
That would've
I
been
was
a better
kind of
ending.
Ice Cube shows up with the fucking gleaming,
Oh,
Tech 9.
guns. Yeah.
Well, I think it was so great is that he got some chrome guns somewhere,
He found him. He got he's black,
and he
right?
and he got her one.
He's
you know
black,
what I
right?
mean?
So I mean, he's obviously blinging on whatever he needs.
He always had them.
He always, I guess so. So, anyways, they arrive at this mine town. It is very Old West style when they get to this town because they're like, where is everybody? This is usually bustling, and this is like, I think this is the first time they use one of the, and I really made a note of this because it really pissed me off. They have so many shitty transitions in this movie.
Oh, they use
where-
Lucas wipes.
Yes, they use
Oh,
all these
God.
really bad wipes all the time, and they first use it on this scene where they walk and it has this perspective shot of the mighty town. Nobody's there, and they're like, it's bustling. People are usually getting in fights and fucking whores. Like that's actually part of the lie.
Yeah.
you
I mean, like, it's a mining town, and if it's a parallel to 1840s or whatever, I mean, is there a whorehouse on Mars? There's got to be a
I
whorehouse
guess
there.
so.
Nothing ever happens on Mars. You sure that's
No. Anyways,
it's from Waiting for Guffman.
but yeah, so they're showing this scene, and they use like a fade transition to the exact same shot, except for with people walking around, and then they use another fade transition back to like the empty street.
Yeah, it's
Why
like
did
they were cutting 3 and 5 seconds of like he's walking from the left side of the room to the right. We're just gonna fade between these two shots
but-
to save 3 seconds. I
But
don't
like
understand.
the 3 seconds that they saved is the 3 seconds that you see a transition, so it saves nothing.
Yeah, it's like he tripped during it, and they didn't want to do a second take, and they were like, "Fuck it, we'll just edit the trip out," and like just show him walking across the room.
There's literally a shot.
He did a face plant. and
There is
then, like,
literally a shot where Jason Statham and Natasha Henstridge they get to the jail cell where fucking Demoralizing Jones is hanging out at, and there's the scene, and like the camera shows them like the door opens and they're standing
I like
there.
Demoralizing Jones a lot better.
yeah, that's his name from now on.
That would be someone to be fucking scared of, dude. Oh my God, it's Demoralizing Jones. Let's just listen. You don't want to talk to him.
No, he's
He
just
will
gonna
really
bring you
fucking
down.
eat at your core,
He's just
man.
gonna bring you down a bit.
We had a jailer in there with him, and that guy killed himself after a couple of weeks. And the other guy left to go to Rodin to study ice sculptures.
The other guy joined Landmark.
Yeah. He's a real drag, that demoralizing Jones.
But this was like, they walk into the doorway and they're standing there and they're not but more than 5 feet away from the jail cell, but they still use a transition. And it transitions to them standing in front of the jail cell, and it's just completely worthless. And it makes as cheap and garbage like that this movie already looks. Those transitions just make it look that much worse. It's like it was edited. It was like it was edited by like.
Sorry, dude. It's like this movie is so fucking bad. It's like if there was a 300-foot log of shit. You know what I mean? Who had like on a fucking hipster belt or something, somewhere around foot 165, and you were like, "Damn, that hipster belt is really played." You know what I mean? It's like, well, it actually is a 365-foot turd. You know what I mean? Yeah, the transitions were bad, but
yeah, they use these weird transitions. They made up dialogue like phrases. I guess that's Martian lingo, like jacked, ready, and double tough. He's like, "Are you ready to go?" "I'm jacked, ready, and double tough."
I think she was just like that was Pam Grier. Foxy Brown was cast in this movie to be, I guess, I think she was the commander or something, right? She was the leader.
Yeah, she wasn't around that much, and then she got killed.
She wasn't commanding anything.
Yeah,
I mean,
Natasha Henstridge was running the show, basically, right?
She got her head cut off, and I just wondered, like, okay, I don't know. It's like the threat in this movie was pretty fucked up. I felt like I was essentially along on like they shot it at the House of Torment or something. Some kind of really shitty haunted house.
Yeah, it was like a bad haunted house, like the one we went to in that old Ross Dress for Less.
That was better than because they turned out all the lights in that one. You know what I mean?
The fluorescent lights.
Yeah. And they gave you a lantern, and like the lantern was remote controlled, so in certain sections the lantern would go out, and you'd be like, "Oh no, my lantern's out."
I couldn't tell if this movie was actually trying to be like a horror movie or if it was trying to just be like a campy action movie, because it seemed like there were moments where they really tried to make it like a thriller, like scary or something.
Yeah. I think the music was telling you, at least when the guitars started a third or halfway into the movie.
Music was.
You mean the Trent Reznor music?
The Trent.
It's actually
I wrote that
Buckethead.
down. Yeah, it's a bunch of people.
Buckethead made the music.
It's
he phoned it in.
John Carpenter, Steve Vai, Buckethead, and Anthrax.
Right.
And it shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, that scene where that's the high point. That's like pretty much that's pretty much end of Act 1 or close to it right there when Jason's it's part of Jason Statham's flashback inside of Natasha Hedstrom's flashback where
Inception.
where
what did you say earlier, Justin? It's like a poor man or a
it's
stupid
like,
person.
It's like Inception for retards, you know?
Yeah, Inception
it's
for
like,
retards. Yeah, that's right.
It's just so difficult to understand why we have to. Okay, so Jason Statham, he sees one of the Martians running on top of a hill, and he kind of tails them until they disappear. And he sees all of these heads on spikes, and this is like the big reveal of the movie. Like, oh, we get to see what these Martians look like, what they're all about, because they've been ripping people apart all movie. And when you see them, it's so
those aren't even
Martians.
Martians.
They aren't Martians.
They're not even remotely scary.
They're
or
not even
weird or
green.
anything.
They don't have.
They look
antenna.
like if you play a video game with like monsters and stuff. Those are like the super low level,
It looks
run
like
of the mill.
You know what they look like?
It looks like
They
a
look-
gore concert.
They look like the band. Like the band. Chainsaw that opened up for Kiss in like 1978.
The
you know what I
main
mean?
guy looks like fucking Cradle of Filth. Look like a guy from Cradle of Filth,
Yeah.
And he's just sitting up there, and all the miners. I don't know, like I guess when these ghosts, because they aren't ghosts, they're just Martians that are.
They're like
vapors.
ghosts, yeah, but they
vapors.
only get to move around with the wind. They have no control over where they go. If they get blown in your direction and they touch you, they go inside you.
They can go
and
inside
they
of
take
you
control
and
of
possess you.
Except Natasha Henstridge, or Henstridge, however you say her name, who is, I guess, just too badass to be possessed.
No, she took drugs.
Took the drugs.
She
Jason
tripped
Statham
balls,
put that-
and it scared the thing off. I mean, what
I
does
missed that somehow.
What does that say about drug use? It's like, no, it'll save you from monster ghosts.
At the end of the day, popping some
Always
bath
have
salts.
some acid.
We'll do the trick
Popping
for
some
you.
bath salts.
But you see
That will not be a timely reference when this.
But I just to me it's like there was no thread in the movie that was consistent. It just seemed like an editing, like just like they had a bunch of ideas and they went there and they ran into maybe a lot of problems, and then it just like they just pieced together whatever they had afterwards.
They just edited it together. Yeah, it kind of seemed like whenever you have really bad takes on like a music, like on audio, and then you're trying to put it back together, and you're like, wow, I'm gonna have to like loop this drum part over and over again just to be able to do anything with
like,
this song.
Yeah, like a band that's like at one point maybe it was a really great band and made a really killer record. Like they're maybe older, or they're just not feeling it or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe they
now
go,
you have to work with lit again, and they're not doing
lit.
and they're just
and they go to some studio in like upstate New York, and they all just like the snare sound of that song owns though, man. Go back and listen to the snare drum of that song.
you make me come like
yeah, that song's pretty rough. But yeah, it's like the band goes to like some studio upstate New York, and we're just gonna fucking hang out there, and we're just gonna see what happens, man. You know what I mean? And they go there and they work for like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, and they're super stoned and drunk, and they just fuck around, and they have like all these tracks. And they get back, and it's someone's job to put it together, and it's like, wow, there's not really any songs here, and the playing's awful, and everyone's terrible. This is really awful.
Yeah,
This
the
is
editor
really
was probably
embarrassing.
really confused and like, oh, this is like a narrative.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to. Oh my god, I have to put this.
I
together
can't
into
imagine what
something.
editing this must have been
Well,
like.
it must have been like a reality TV show or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been just terrible.
It
like
seemed
with-
like they had an intern
Here's
doing
the thing.
part of it.
Here's
Yeah.
the thing. I'm not going to say that I would have been okay with this movie because there are a lot of things that needed to change for me to
way
be
too
okay
many.
with this movie.
Oh,
6
dude,
pages
I would
worth.
never be okay.
But-
with, from the get go.
No,
I'm not, even sure
I'm
I
not
could dig
saying,
your premise.
but like if the characters were even interesting,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe I would have been able to at least have one positive thing to say about this movie. But all of the characters are terrible. Everybody in this movie is fucking awful at their jobs.
They're
They
bad
are
people.
Just bad at their jobs. Like Natasha Henstrom's doing drugs, so she's getting like fucking, like that. What's his name? Descanso. He lets Ice Cube out of the cage, out of the jail, and he takes that chick hostage. And he lets him like take over his gun, and Natasha Henstridge gets knocked out. The people that they try to escape on the train, they're late. They show up late. And so, like, they run out. Like, Natasha Henstrom, it's just
It's
everybody just sucks at what they do here, and nobody. But I want to bring out this scene. There's this one scene in particular that just really, okay. So, during one of Jason Statham's flashbacks inside of Natasha Henstrom's flashback, he runs into these other guys. He takes shelter in a building with just these random dudes who were hiding out there. He doesn't really know why. Mm-hmm. They don't really trust him because he gets authority, but there's a bunch of murderous barbarians, outside, so they all kind of take together. And they eventually meet back up with Natasha Henstrom and his group. Turns out they're buddies of fucking Despotism Jenkins. And
dysentery.
and what they do is after this really clumsy scene where there's this awesome rescuer, it's like, oh, they got guns now, so open the cage and let Ice Cube out. But they open the cage and they all get inside, they get locked in. Again, everyone's bad at what they do.
I think it's Henstridge.
Henstridge, whatever.
Yeah.
Henstrom, Henstridge, fucking gorgeous blonde chick. We'll just call her that, hot blonde chick.
Mm-hmm.
Because like everything else in this movie is sexist. So
No, and her uniform, it's like these weird all leather things. You can tell like a straight dude designed it,
absolutely.
And it was like, yeah, but we're make it really tight around her titties.
Someone that likes
and her ass.
UFC designed the costumes.
But
the
it
guy
had
from
like
Dead or Alive or something. He was like, yeah, volleyball. All right.
Yeah, and it was all black leather. It had like a little skirt with it, and it kind of looked like a Nazi SS uniform
a little bit
too.
A little bit.
I was like, man. I haven't been aroused.
But then they all were wearing
by Nazis.
He's a really hot Nazi.
Yeah, no, there was a really hot Nazi in The Spirit.
But like
ScarJo was a hot Nazi in that.
so you have these costumes, but then they were all wearing really fucking dumb scuba goggles. You know?
Oh yeah.
So that just kind of counterbalances the cool, you know. Jason Statham probably would have looked a lot cooler if he wasn't wearing those dumb goggles.
Yeah, it was like 1930s motorcycle sidecar goggles.
Right. But eventually, desperation, whatever, and all of the cops, they all team up because they realize, okay,
Delinquent Joe.
yeah, delinquent. But like they realize we've got to team up because we're surrounded by Martians. And they're gearing up for war. They're gathering all the arsenal that they can get their hands on. They're making improvised grenades.
Oh, they love arts and crafts. They're
all really
arts and crafts.
Where do they find the
almost
time
sisters.
to make all this fucking metal sculpture?
I don't know.
And they decorate shit
Yeah.
inside.
Oh,
They
yeah.
it shows them doing arts and crafts and making swords, but like just like all the decorative jewelry because these were people like half an hour ago,
And they were-
now
but
it's like
here's the
they have
thing.
chest plates like fucking Wrath of Khan.
They
shit.
were people from like the year 2200. And then suddenly they're like fucking barbarians.
Oh yeah,
Like they're like fucking Assyrians. They're like beheading people and
yeah,
putting
and they've
their
got
heads
like
on
pointy
pikes.
teeth and shit.
And one of my favorite is like the chick. There's this chick Martian, and this is when all of them are like, they're at their pep rally, and
Yeah, they have a pep rally. I forgot.
That's right.
and they're like amped up and stuff. And she has this costume where like she has hands as like a bra, so it's like, well, at least she had the sensibility to cover her nipples, It's
Yeah.
fucking harsh.
She had
Martians
some,
have shame.
some Judeo-Christian values with her body. You know what I mean?
I mean, she's
it's way back in her brainstem. It was still there. It was like the church
No,
lady.
it was
you
the
know?
Martians. The Martians
Right.
have some shame.
Like, I mean, she
That
obviously
Martian
didn't
was
care.
physically abused
She
or
didn't
whatever.
care too much
Grown
about
up.
but she didn't care too much about her body to like spear it with like all sorts of crazy crap
Yeah.
and like sharpen her teeth and everything. But
Yeah.
no, she was not going to let her nipples be shown to any random passerby.
I can imagine that conversation with the costume guy. Where she's like, "No, I'm not going to wear that. No, okay, I'll wear that."
There are no tits in this movie.
Yeah.
That's what pissed me off. Like there's so
Didn't-
much gore and
Didn't
there's
Natasha
so much like
have tits in like almost full nudity in Species?
I think so. I think that was
Yeah,
a
that
nude
was
scene in
great.
there.
I think I was in junior high when I saw it, so that was the most wonderful thing ever.
That was
That movie
Very
was kinda
awakening for
lame,
me.
Too.
Yeah, but she's naked.
At
in
least
it.
she was naked.
Yeah.
Like that would have made up for a lot of this movie, I think.
Yeah.
But I got okay. So
Conversation done. Podcast. Yeah. Should have had Natasha's tits in it.
yeah, just pull her tits out. Call it a wrap.
Credits.
Exactly.
matriarch.
Yeah, then-
But
That's so
no,
rough.
okay. But the scene I was getting at is the Mexican guy. While everybody is all working industriously, he's fucking doing whatever. Whatever
Okay,
they
wait,
call
wait,
it.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. Did anyone realize that Louis Skolnick from Revenge of the Nerds is in this movie?
no.
No.
You guys, what? No one fucking saw that? He's on the train. He's the fucking conductor of the train. He's one of the conductors of the train, not the old guy, but the younger guy. It's Louis Skolnick.
The guy that gets the coffee?
Yeah.
Oh.
The longer hair. Louis
Oh,
Skolnick,
is he the
dude.
guy who jokingly threatens to rape her when she's handcuffed to the thing?
I missed that scene.
I did too.
There was. I think that was at the end. Maybe that was Statham who after or somebody Ice Cube. No, it was Ice Cube. At the end, he handcuffs her to the thing and is like, "What are you gonna do?" He insinuates that he's jokingly gonna rape her, like
Jokingly.
I don't know. I
jokingly. You didn't catch that?
I
I've got the
didn't
line
catch
written
that.
down. We'll get
What?
to it later on.
Okay. But
I catch that shit.
didn't-
I don't let
was
women
that
rape.
was that
there's
a vague rape threat?
if there's a hit, I'm a rape hound. I can sniff that rape out.
I
you
can
know?
sniff
That's
rape
a bullet
out.
point right there, baby.
But no, like the Mexican guy, he's doing drugs, and he cuts his own thumb off. He puts the can down and chops his thumb off. And everyone's just kind of laughing at him. They bandaged him up, but they still let him keep doing the drugs. It's like, this guy, you're relying on this guy. You're gonna rely on this guy to like fight a battle with you.
Okay, I found it. So Ice Cube handcuffs her into the. She's laying in the bed. She's injured or something like that, and then he goes, "This is where I get off," and then implying like either he's gonna raper,
I think
or
you're
he's going to
kinda
get off.
reaching on that one,
Reaching?
too.
No, he
I think
delivers
you're
it in a very Ice Cube manner, like, this is where I get off.
But Ice Cube.
I agree. I think you're reaching.
Okay, so I'm
isn't a-
racist. I'm racist.
I
Okay.
don't think you're racist. I just think you're reaching.
No, hey, I'm owning up to
just
it. I'm
put the
super
racist part in there.
I'm just owning up.
I'm just admitting it.
I'm just coming out now.
Right.
That's your defense mechanism. What I do is when I think someone may call me racist in like an hour, I just come out. I'm racist.
I'm a
And then
rapist.
a lot of times they're taken aback by it, and they're like, "No, if you're not." See, I work the opposite.
No, you guys, I'm a rapist. I'm a serious serial
Did I
rapist.
say racist? I meant rapist.
Oh, I'm a rapist. You know?
No, Louis Skolnick from fucking Revenge of the Nerds is definitely in Ghost of Mars. I just looked it up.
Man. But I mean,
His name is Robert Carradine.
Oh, yeah, Carradine was in this. One of the Carradines.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. Okay.
And you know, in Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise, there's that guy that says, "Comprende, dickhead," to him. You know what I mean? And I like that guy. He's in Cabin in the Woods. I forget his name. He's on Real Time with Bill Maher a lot. He's one of the main guys in Cabin in the Woods. Not the kids, but the two. Not the
Oh, he
younger.
was one of the overseers.
Yeah, one of the overseers.
Okay.
But I don't know his name. I just call him Comprende, dickhead.
Comprende, dickhead. If you ever see him, you're gonna be like, "Hey, comprende, dickhead."
If I ever did, I would explain to him that I don't know his name, but that I call him Comprende, dickhead in all movies that I see him in, and he would probably understand.
He would probably be cool with that.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah. So at this point, they're walking around the ghost town, and it's basically like a haunted house, right? We can agree it's like a bad house of torment. And because the one thing that I really noticed, like they walking down the hall, and it's like you're walking through a room, and there's a guy in a hospital bed that's just going.
Yeah,
twitching, yeah.
but he doesn't like
But he's,
attack
but
him
he's
or
not
anything.
attacking you
He's
because
just
he legally can't.
He legally
He
can't.
can't touch
He
you.
cannot touch you.
Yeah.
He's got a chainsaw without a blade on it.
Don't be too scary for the 11-year-olds.
They use the blade to make the art with.
Yeah, all their arts and crafts time. The fucking Boy Scout Martian ghost.
Did you notice how all of the weird things they always had like scissors, like fabric scissors?
Oh yeah,
that was.
There was a lot of
Where did
scissors
they-
on Mars.
Where did they get all,
at a
like, why
mining
were there all
colony?
those scissors on this fucking?
And a soldering iron.
And a
Like,
soldering
the thing is someone had to solder that shit together. You know what I
Right.
mean? So one of these dudes, when he's not fucking mutilating his face or chopping heads off or running around banging things against a rock like they seem to do and just going, "Oh!" He's in there with a fucking soldering iron.
It's like, no, guys, wait,
Very-
it's gonna look really good.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
When I get
It's
the
like
symmetry
point to
right,
point. It's the only
smoke
way to
coming
go.
out, you know what I mean? Yeah, he's just like he's got a little sponge that's wet.
Yeah,
you know, he can
exactly.
clean the solder off his soldering iron. You know what I
Solder
mean?
off.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking bullshit.
You're like Grimlock is really into the soldering.
Grim
So
luck.
yeah, there's lights blinking and
Sure they use
flashing
that
for
transition
no
too, the
That's
reason.
Transformers
It's
transition.
there's lights blinking like you're in a haunted
That
house
scene-
or in a video game where it's like, yeah, we're gonna make these lights blink for no fucking reason.
that scene is lit. It is shot like a scene out of Batman and Robin. They're just all sorts of crazy
Oh,
colors,
no.
and they're all just kind of flashing around. Like, and I think, and like that was what I was saying before, when there are elements of this movie that seem like it should be scary.
Yeah.
But how can it be scary when you walk into a set that looks like that?
Because you have the music that goes.
Okay, that music is not scary. There is no movie I've ever seen that had a soundtrack that went that was scary. Not
Yeah.
one.
Well, they did vary
What
it
about
up.
from
There-
Paris? That was pretty scary, and it had some pretty.
No, I just think any movie, maybe Saw. I never saw any of the Saw movies. I don't know if they were scary or not. Maybe they had a new metal soundtrack. I don't know. But new metal is
Music by
not
Limp
scary.
Bizkit.
Yeah.
The fucking music from The Shining, that's scary.
This
Yeah.
this
Right.
soundtrack was at least the second half of it with the guitars, which they used every time a door opened. The new guitars came in. It was just like
Double guitars?
and it would change because they only played 3 notes. It would be and then you'd walk into the next room and then
Well, I imagine they were probably just like, you know, just keep it really simple here. We're just trying to have it be like Joe.
It needs to highlight the
and
intensity.
we'll space it out, you know. now I'm a racist, I guess.
yeah. Now we're all racist.
But they're like, and they're probably like that, and space it. We'll space it out. No one will ever know that it's the same fucking 3 chords over and over and over again.
Really,
you know
no
what I mean?
one.
But to me, it just seemed like the editing of the music was really poor. It came in weird. It sounded fucking terrible. You know, it wasn't. It was just so rote. You know, it was so expected.
Did
you
fade
know what I mean?
ins, like when a door and then when they would walk in, it was you were RTF. What's the different types of music? Music can be heard within the thing.
Music that's existing in the world of the movie is diegetic music. And music that is not in the world of the movie is non-diegetic music.
It sounded like it was diegetic because it was faded
there was a
in
stereo
and stuff.
on somewhere.
Yeah. And they would walk into the room and
with
it
a
would
down
fade
set
in.
tape in there. You know, what I mean?
Downset. Oh God.
What?
It's an inside joke. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was the sidetrack.
So they're going
Drop
through this
D,
haunted
baby.
house, and the thing that really stuck out to me and really made me get my pen out at this point was they're walking through this one room, and there's a human arm.
Oh, I know
sticking
exactly
out.
what you're talking
And
about.
there's this guillotine. It's set up and it's rigged. It has like a motion sensor or something on
Well,
it.
that was the ARM Severatron 4000.
Yes,
that
it
was
was just a
very, very
standard feature
popular
of
on
Mars.
Mars
Was there a
Yeah.
guillotine?
in the
Yes,
23rd
there was
century.
some sort of a
I thought
guillotine
it
or
was just
something.
like a severed arm that was stuck in a door.
No, it wasn't stuck in a door. I looked at it and I was watching. I was like, "What the fuck?" Because it had like a motion sensor. It was like a bad haunted house where you walk up and then ka-chunk, it cuts off the arm off of. I don't know if there's a torso behind there or what.
You don't see the torso.
No, I don't think so.
No, you don't.
Okay.
That's why I thought it was just a severed arm stuck in a door.
There was no like door. It was just a freestanding piece of like sheet metal that was like, oh, okay, now it cuts an arm that was floating
dude,
there on
That
it.
makes
One
that
thing-
sound effect make more sense
One
now.
thing about Mars in this movie is that metal seems to just cut through shit all on its own. Like if you throw
yes,
a
the
fucking
throwing
saw blade
disc.
at somebody,
It like cuts their goddamn
it
head
cuts
off.
right through their head. You know, all metal in this world is really sharp and is making a beeline for your neck meats. You know what I mean?
Or your arm.
Or your arm
It just
meats.
severs
It's just
anything
immediately,
nearby.
and it flies through without slowing down. It's just like it almost speeds up after
Yeah.
it cuts
It
your
These
head off.
Martians are like fucking Captain America with these goddamn saw blades.
Cleo Duvall gets her head cut off with that. You know what I mean?
She deserved it.
What was she doing in this movie?
Movie. I was not familiar with the actress,
Me either.
Yeoman
and so I just
Johnson?
kept writing "slanty face" over and over again in my notes.
Slanty
You are
face.
racist.
No, not slanty
She
eyes.
is half Chinese.
No, like her face, like her jaw.
She's not really half Chinese.
No. She looks like the retarded midget that was cut off Natasha Henstridge. And you know,
Oh, my
Touche.
God.
Turns out you're not racist.
no, because I also wrote in there. I kept getting confused
She
between
looks like
the
a
two of them
retarded
a
midget.
little bit.
At first I was
so
too.
so check out this drawing. It says slanty face because her jaw looks like it's 6 inches forward from her head.
Oh God.
And
For those of us that are watching the TV show right now, Tim is showing us a picture of
a
a
trapezoidal head.
trapezoid with a face on the side
I
of
actually
it.
like the line "pants on ice cube" from the middle of the page.
Yeah. Well, he was
Wait,
wearing.
what's that
pants.
note about, Tim?
It says pants on ice cube.
He's like,
Martian-
"Oh damn!"
He's got pants on.
No, you ruined it.
No, I was noticing. You got to go back and try to find this. I wrote Martian camo looks like casino bar carpet. It was like red. It was like they took regular camo and then they
Dude.
made it red and other
You
red.
really fucking put some time in on this biz match.
Yeah. Well, I was in a little bit of an altered state at the time, and so his,
Right. You were in the
slanty
isolation
face-
tank. I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything that detailed.
That's fucking awesome.
You don't have
Casino
drawings of-
carpet.
Casino.
No, casino bar carpet. It's just like a shitty pattern. and
Even
it's all,
more specific.
It
Oh
looks
my
like
God.
it's just
Your
sadness,
pants look like
Yeah,
casino
it's-
bar carpet.
like a dirty Indian casino bar carpet. That's just
Now you're
God,
racist.
now you're racist.
Now you've run
All right.
the gamut.
So you got
Yeah.
retarded midget.
You've got black people are rapists. You said something about Jews earlier. I kind of just
no,
blanked
that
one
was
out.
Justin.
Oh, no, you said it.
No,
though.
he said my guitar sound sounded like I was saying Jew, 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 Jew.
Yeah, but I'm sure in your racist mind, a lot of things sounds like Jew. But
Like trains, like
Diamonds.
trains going up the mountain. When I read them to my little nephew.
Jesus,
He goes,
dude.
So yeah, they have arts and crafts in this haunted house that they lead them through, which doesn't actually have any danger. I don't think there's any traps for the people. It was just like we're gonna set up all of these things to make them walk through.
Except for the crow. The crow shows up. Right
What's
then.
the crow? Oh, the crow, like Game of Thrones crow.
No. Well, that dude shows up right.
You
want
to know what my favorite line in this movie is? My favorite line in this movie is when they're running towards the train and
can't remember it, can you?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Like that's when the explosions are going off, you know. And this is from Ice Cube, and this was the line that highlighted just how weird his character being in this movie is. I'm gonna try to emulate his voice. When the explosions are going off, he goes, "They're tearing the whole planet apart, building by building." It sounded so fucking odd. I was like, what? Like, why did, like, that was the best take they had. That was probably the best take they had. They were like, cut, Cube. That was good. But you need to reel back a little of the Compton that's coming out.
It's building
there. It's
by building.
That's what I said. Building by building.
You're racist.
I'm allowed. I'm black. It's immunity. It's diplomatic immunity.
We're all just like, yeah, it's funny, Devin.
I'm very uncomfortable with this right now.
I'm going to look at Devin before I laugh.
Is he laughing?
Compton.
I get that. That's
That Ice Cube's a great rapper, isn't he?
That was
So there's dangling knives. Oh, they walk into some room, and he walks up to the door, and there's these dangling another arts and crafts project that they've made. There's a series of dangling knives that follows one of their heads around like it's a eye authentication device, and it floats around his head, and then it checks him out, and then the door opens. I never understood that.
Dude, I think you may have been smoking
were
a
you-
lot
were
of
you
stuff when you were
hallucinating?
watching this movie.
I wasn't smoking anything.
I think he was on mushroom.
I don't recall that.
He was
at
just
all.
high on
I mean, it could have been a coincidence that the door opened, but it seemed like this halo
What
of
part
knives.
of the movie was this?
This was during the shitty like.
We've already talked about this movie way too long for
Yeah.
anyone to sit through.
No. I think we haven't talked about it enough.
I still have like 3 or 4 more
Well,
pages. in notes.
you obviously
All right,
put the
let's
most
go.
work in.
Oh, the weather balloon. Then the weather balloon. The
The
weather
weather
balloon.
balloon
okay.
scene was
That was-
fucking incomprehensible.
That
We
was
should-
the funniest part of this whole
That
movie.
was incomprehensible. Okay,
That
so
was.
in this scene, here's what happens. This is another one of those moments where it's a fucking retarded flashback of somebody else's flashback inside of Natasha whatever's flashback. So they come across this cave. They come across this jail cell, and there's a bunch of people inside. You know, and one of them is a scientist. They extract that knowledge from her, and they ask her, like, why are you here? What happened? You know, and once she's explaining her story, it has this random flashback. She's like, I was traveling in a weather balloon, and it
Yeah.
shows her in the weather balloon.
Yeah,
That
and she's
looks
like
garbage.
like a hang glider.
Yeah.
It looks like a 1820s.
It looks like a trip around around the world in 80 days.
It looks like
type
a
of-
bad Leonardo da Vinci invention that you'd be like, that can't fly. That's retarded. Isn't that funny? How that and then she crashes and it
crashes
explodes.
and it
It's like they learned
explodes.
nothing from the Hindenburg of like don't use hydrogen, and it's just like it crashes and it has this giant explosion.
And this is all done on the worst looking green screen I've ever seen. Like the camera comes down at her from this angle and she's like flying, but it looks worse than like 1960s Batman episodes, you know. It just looks like garbage. Like everything else in this fucking movie.
We should have John Carpenter on the show. We should
I
have
wish
called,
I could.
we should have called him and just said, "Hey, man, we want to talk
gotta
about
talk
Ghost of
about this.
Yeah,
Mars."
come on, man.
I love you, Carpenter. I mean, fucking Escape from New York. Halloween? How can you make a soundtrack like Halloween that is so fucking iconic? And even the other stuff that isn't quite as iconic but still good. And then, like, give a thumbs up to what you have as a soundtrack in this movie.
Well, I think probably it's 2001. You know, you got to think of the context. Like 2001, like the biggest band at the time was probably Limp Bizkit or some terrible shit like that. You know what I mean?
It's dark times for
And
them.
they thought if they put it some like new metal-y sound and stuff in there, that'd be very hip and cool, and,
But
and
here's the-
young
but
kids would like it.
He got musicians that are good at what they do. You know, Anthrax is like even if you don't like metal, Anthrax is a good band. You know, and even if you don't like Buckethead, he's a good musician. You know, they've crafted. It's not like Downset. You know, he didn't get Downset. If Downset did this soundtrack, that would make a hell of a lot more sense to me. But he got people that were actually, you know, they were icons in their respective genre, and it still turned out like garbage. Yeah, I don't get that. Like, I don't understand. That's one of the more bad. It's like John Carpenter's an icon of filmmaking, and this movie looks like trash. The musicians that are in this that the soundtrack are icons of their respective genres, and it sounds horrible. You know.
Well, they're not composers for movies. It's just a different thing.
Right. And, you know, depending on who was leading the project, you can always make bad music, even if you have great musicians.
Yeah.
And I know that firsthand. So, you know.
Are you responsible for a lot of bad music?
I might be responsible for a lot of songs
Did you do
about
the soundtrack?
tires. Yes, I did.
Oh, I'm sorry,
You
man.
know,
I didn't
tires
do
and tractors and, amazing musicians from New York who come in and sing, and they're great. On their own, they do really great music, but then you bring them in there and you're like, we're singing about tractors and it's really amazing, just happens.
That's how it goes, I
yeah,
guess.
They can't all be winners. You know what I mean?
That should be... That
you
should
make
be,
enough of anything, you're going to fuck some shit
That
up.
should be the
Yeah.
pull quote on the movie poster of this movie. Ghost of Mars. They can't all be winners.
I mean, think
Hey,
about...
what are you doing on a Sunday afternoon?
Yeah. The thing
Wanna
You're
go
about
to
gonna watch
Mars?
this.
Goes to Mars. BitTorrent it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Demonoid.me.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just talk about some of the really basic things that never occurred to anybody in this show.
Like why? Like okay, so the ghosts ride the wind and they get inside somebody. You gotta, if you kill the person, the ghost is released. So
Yes.
why not subdue them?
Put them in
Lock
jail.
them up, put them in jail.
Well,
game
it's-
over. That's the end of the movie.
Well,
They've captured all of them.
There were a lot of them, and they were
There was 30 maybe.
there was a little more than 30, and they were skilled at throwing those buzzsaws or whatever they were throwing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, honestly, why not use some kind of gas
darts
that puts them all to sleep or something? This is the future.
They didn't have access to that.
Well, not them. I mean, if you knew it's a problem, and you're like, okay,
Or just bail.
yeah,
get the fuck out of
that's
there.
what I would have done. Totally. I mean, the minute I would be like, oh, this is weird. Let's go. The town's fucked up. No one's here. Let's get the fuck out of here. We'll tell them. I don't know. He was gone. We don't know. We came back.
Well,
But I mean,
I guess that would have fitted with the narrative of everybody
it's
being
a
bad at their
movie.
jobs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it
the thing
would've.
is they realize pretty quickly that these dudes are, that they contain the thing and it gets out. And
They do address that in the movie in a way, because there's that scene where the slanty face girl, she's guarding.
Yes, see?
She's guarding.
I told you.
I don't know her
Trapezoid
name. So that's
face.
the only way I can refer to her
Just-
now. But there's an old man that's in the jail cell, and he's just sitting there. He's possessed.
Oh,
he's
yeah,
not doing
yeah.
anything. He's sitting there, and the girl's guarding her. And for some reason that is completely unexplained, he kills her. She kills him, and just shoots him dead. And everybody comes out. And she's like, fuck him. And that's it. That's it. And now the ghost is free, and it's free to possess. And that's when it possesses Natasha and
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, before she trips balls and gets rid of it.
Right before she shows ball. So it's like they obviously knew about containing.
yeah,
it.
that's my point. And they don't ever do it. They just kill wave upon wave of these fucking guys.
And you literally do not kill the real enemy. You're just
Yeah.
killing
Right.
humans.
Yeah.
And certainly, if they figured out the drug thing, they locked them up in jail. They could bring drugs and be like, okay, we got rid of them all.
Yeah.
Or get a vacuum or a big fan in the ceiling that sucks them
vacuum.
the fuck
Yeah.
out of there.
Suck them into a container,
Yeah,
with
like a-
lightning and stuff.
Yeah,
Or
like a
just-
Ghostbusters thing.
Just get yourself a suit that's airtight, like a fucking space-suit. You know what I mean?
Gas
and then
mask,
just fucking
salt.
walk out of there. Sorry, they're all on the outside. Oh, fuck you. You're like, sorry,
Yeah,
buddy. I'm
you-
gonna catch a train.
Where were they going to get all this? I mean, they just rode it. They didn't know that the ghosts were there when they rode into town. They rode into a minor town that apparently had plenty of scissors, but probably
no vacuums.
no
I mean, they
vacuums
don't
or
even.
no
They literally
spacesuits.
don't even need ghost busting equipment. Fucking a wet shop vac would have solved this movie's problems. It really would have. I'm not joking.
Or just maybe a helmet and duct and duct tape it and duct tape the opening. You know what I mean? Sorry,
You're trying to get in. Huh?
Yeah,
It's not working very
can't
well.
get in. I got
yeah.
a helmet on.
Walk around in just a clear trash bag around you. You're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you ain't getting in.
Yeah.
Not getting
Sorry,
in here.
buddy. Got me a helmet.
Maybe if they had motorcycle helmets, it would have worked out better for them.
I mean, the whole thing, it just seemed like, it was so fucking stupid. You know what I mean? The
Yeah,
whole
the
idea was just
concept.
so dumb. I mean, and the thing that bummed me out is it essentially was kind of like a retread of The Thing. I mean, when you look at the basic components of the story, it's very similar. Outpost on the outskirts of nowhere, you know what I mean? A few people go there, you know what I mean? And they discover some ancient evil has been loose.
There's an unseen enemy that's taking people down.
That infects them, you know what I mean? I've said, 100,000 times. And it's the same thing. And eventually everything melts down and everyone's dead. It's horrible. But The Thing was so fucking great.
Did they go back at the end of The Thing? Like they did in this movie?
That's what made The Thing great.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen The Thing?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's
dude,
a good movie.
It's
a really good movie.
Great.
It's a good movie. The ending of this movie,
There's an ending?
they rushed it. I think that it felt to me like they thought, it's time to wrap this shit up.
Oh, because they kill all the main characters in about 45
But they
seconds.
did it. The way they did it is they framed each character individual, like each death scene had its own special moment on screen, where every character was like framed right in the center, and then
slow motion.
A buzzsaw comes in off screen and cuts someone's head off, and the next character framed perfectly in the middle, and somebody like comes and rips their arm off or something.
Yeah, it's like they wanted a good horror movie kills off the characters like slowly, and so you're like, oh, and you get attached to them or whatever. And this, it's like almost all of them make it to the end, and then about 20 minutes from the end, they kill like 5 of them.
What's so fucking
back to back
stupid
to back in 15 seconds.
Is that they all made it, but then they went back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's what I want to get at right here. Okay, so eventually the guys in the train, they show up. They get on the guys. They all load up on the train, and they made it. They've escaped. But then Natasha Henstridge is like, they're gonna keep coming at us, so we have to destroy them. It's like, it's even possible. It's like, well, I guess there's a nuclear plant or something.
Oh yeah.
There.
What happens if I blow up a nuclear power
what if
plant?
we blew up that nuclear plant? Would that kill him? Like, well, we don't know, but I guess you could try. It's like, yeah, let's do that.
It'll probably just cause a meltdown. No, it's going to cause a 2-mile radius explosion, which they show from outer space, and it's like 400,000 miles wide.
Here's the thing.
It's like a huge
I must
chunk
have
of the
skipped that
planet.
part.
It would have wiped that train out.
Yeah, it would have totally killed the train.
It destroyed the dinosaurs. Like, all
Oh
of
yeah,
that, so,
I mean it blew up fucking Venus.
Yeah.
and Pluto got knocked off its orbit
Yeah,
and shit.
exactly. Ran into Earth.
But,
It was
like
amazing.
the takeaway, the big takeaway from this movie for me was on that scene, was on that train at that scene, because they were talking about why, like, can we kill the ghost or blah blah blah, and Natasha Henstridge looks at she looks at the camera. She looks at someone. She goes, what? I don't care whatever her name is. She looks at the camera. She goes, it's not their planet anymore. And I was like, whoa, this is some fucking manifest destiny shit.
Yeah,
right
that's
here.
where the Native American shit, like, totally, it was like,
She may as well have just looked at the camera and been like, this ain't your country anymore, Tonto. Why don't you hop along on that trail of tears and get the fuck out of here? And as monstrous as they tried to make the Martians in this movie, at that moment, I sympathized with them. I was like, well,
yeah, I felt bad for
well,
the Martians.
damn, like, it's just like,
oh yeah, they said this is our dominion now. This is not their planet anymore.
Yeah.
And it was like the Native Americans and the beads and shit or whatever. It was like, no,
right,
this is
exactly.
ours. We're
Because of all
new.
their arts and crafts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all the tribal stuff that they were doing. It's like,
yeah.
maybe they were just like indigenous
Yeah.
people.
Well, also, did you notice about I'm going to call them zombies because they're basically zombies, right?
I just called them the Crow.
Kiss
Like,
Psycho-
because they
Kiss
all
Psycho
look like
Army
the
or
Crow.
whatever.
the Crow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you notice that, like, you're going to call me racist again, so I'm going to go ahead and say it right
Go ahead,
now.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Racy, racist.
Racist. All of the white zombies were, like, civilized and doing arts and crafts and, like fighting. They weren't fighting as much, and the black ones were, like, crazy, like, eating people's brains and shit and, like, going super barbarian on people and just getting, like, really brutal, like, oh, shit,
Yeah. Totally
Man.
brutal, like new metal brutal.
Yeah. Like Limp Bizkit brutal.
I guess I didn't even notice that there were black zombies.
Yeah, there were, and they were just. I mean, if you can stand another time to watch this movie, watch
No,
for it.
I'm
But it was
done.
like all the brutal stuff was done by all the black zombies, and all the white zombies were like arts and crafts and like the leaders.
So there was
and stuff.
racism even amongst the zombies.
Yes, it
Wow.
propagates. It's like in the future, even
Even
though
on
there's
Mars,
zombies,
like they don't even have black people on Mars, but they knew that
Yeah.
when they possess those miners.
Yeah.
The
Martians are
those
super
miners
racist.
those miners are only 1/4 of miner. They aren't a full miner.
three 3/5.
3/5, whatever. I
even
you would know. You would know how
I know.
much.
Well, Mars has got less gravity, so they're 1/4.
Right.
Yeah, I study up for my racism jokes.
A little racism physics joke there, huh?
Racism slash not just racism, like legal racism, like the the paralegal ramifications of racism, plus physics, plus sci-fi.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
That was a nerd burrito, man.
No, I mean, I could go off on like Mars. Like it doesn't have a magnetic field anymore. It can't protect its atmosphere. That's why its atmosphere blew away. You can't really terraform Mars because it's just gonna get blasted by the
Did you
sun.
not see Total Recall?
Yeah, I
Fucking
watched the Blu-ray.
Quaid activated the fucking machine like Quad told him to, and now there's an atmosphere on Mars, dude.
Yeah.
Maybe
they
with
had
alien
breathers.
technology.
They had breathers, dude. So they were almost there.
I don't
you
even,
know, but
and I don't even want to talk about the final battle because it was so anticlimactic. I mean, it was just dumb. They blew up the train anyways, and they got away from the guy. It doesn't even matter. At this point, I was like you. I was just kind of, I wasn't fast forwarding, but I definitely wasn't paying attention.
Well, to me, it's like so dumb. When they went back, it's like, okay, they went back and they didn't solve anything. They just killed all the main characters. They didn't
didn't solve anything.
The aliens are all still alive.
Yeah, because they attacked
and they
at the
knew
end.
that.
They knew that they can't actually hurt or
Yeah.
kill the real source of the evil or whatever
If
it is.
the thing
They're fucking ghosts.
The thing that actually makes it worse is if they had just left them there, they would have stayed there. They're way out in the middle of nowhere, and they're all
They're
possessed.
hundreds of miles away,
Yeah.
and there's no way they would be able to walk faster than the train to the main
Exactly.
town.
Well, and then they could always just kind of keep them corralled there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could go back and say, yeah, they're all there, they're possessed. You know what I mean? Go deal with
We'll
them.
figure out a
don't,
solution.
Don't kill them. Maybe we
make
could
it
all
an amusement
beanbag
park.
guns.
maybe we could put
Like
them to
Jurassic
sleep.
Park.
Put them to
Exactly.
sleep or
Yeah,
put them
you
in
know.
suspended animation and fucking put them back in the vault or whatever. You know what I mean? Just get rid of it. They're all possessed. It's all taken care of. Instead, they nuke them, free them all, and then the ghosts come and invade the town that she's in now. And then in doing that, they give up the whole fucking cast.
Yep.
They do that. It's the stupidest fucking thing ever.
And then, but hey, at least they get silver guns.
Yeah, they got chrome guns.
The tide's rising.
Yeah, time to live.
Time
So-
to live.
So what that ending
That was the
reminded
last
me of,
line, I think, right?
Was
Time to
it?
No,
live.
the last line is they're walking out, and
Yeah,
she's
that's
like,
right.
"You could make a good cop," and you're like, "You would make a good crook," and then they stop them,
Oh.
and that's the last
It's
line.
like a buddy cop movie. You know?
Yeah.
So who uses crook? Like that's what I like. A lot of the lingo in it, I was like, did that come back
Racist.
in like 300 years later? Like 400 years later? Like they're like, yeah, that's
see?
totally rad. Yeah, like man, that's great.
Well,
And like,
Jason Statham was chock full of that, so he
Oh,
was
yeah.
like fucking Cogni almost, like
Yeah.
walking. Hey, darling, how about you and I have a room to hang or some shit like that? It's like, whoa, hey.
yeah.
I do say governor.
yeah.
Like, no, the thing that I noticed about Ice Cube in this is he's got a gun throughout the movie, doesn't shoot it until the very end.
He
Pistol whips
club everybody.
He clubs the zombies.
That's
he
the-
punches them. He throws grenades
No, he
after
shoots them
grenade.
because at the very first,
Yeah,
it's
at an
that,
hour
it's
and
that one-
22.
at an hour in.
Out of an hour and 38 minutes, he shoots the
Because
gun.
that's my other favorite line. Because he goes, God, he's like, all right, you mindless motherfuckers, and he starts shooting everyone. I felt like he was addressing the audience when he said that. Like he was talking to the people in the theater, like he was calling them mindless motherfuckers for watching this movie. I was like, all right, you got me, Cube. I'm pretty fucking mindless. Or
You
we're
got a
watching
good
this
point.
movie.
Yeah.
See, I thought he was like, I don't know.
We're making
either.
a podcast. Cut me some slack.
I thought they either like ran out of money to buy blanks to put them in the guns, and so they're like, "Sorry, there's no money. You can't
You
shoot
know,
a gun."
Cube,
or he
I'm
refused to
thinking-
fire a gun, like for some moral reasons or something.
Yeah, Ice Cube.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. It might be.
Fucking despotism, Jenkins.
Yeah.
He's afraid of
I shot too
shooting
many
a gun.
motherfuckers in real life, so
I honestly
I'm trying to
thought
cut
that.
back.
I really thought that when I watched this. I was like, "Oh, he must have a thing against guns."
Yeah.
And until an hour and 22 in, he shoots a gun finally, even though he's carrying a gun for the whole fucking movie.
Right. He's like Batman.
Yeah. Oh, he is like Batman. Yeah,
yeah.
but he.
Yeah, he's like Batman. That's how I saw it.
Yes. Yes.
Batman used to have a gun.
I'm not the
he was-
disposition.
He was not afraid to use. Like,
I'm not the disposition the city deserves, but I'm the disposition Jones the city needs right now.
Disposition. He's desperate. Isn't he desperation?
Desolation. I'm not the desolation they need.
Yeah, it was
Desolation. Not
It was
desperation.
Desolation,
Not
Jones.
desperation.
What do you have to do to get a name like Desolation Jones?
His name was Desolation Williams. That's
Williams.
the funny. It was a little bit more distinguished than Jones. He comes from a different, because he comes from a higher caste.
Oh, I see.
Because have you ever been scared of a guy named Ray Ray? I haven't.
Desperation Jefferson. It's like, all right.
Oh, he's descended from slaves and Thomas Jefferson. Right?
Or maybe he's related to Wheezy and fucking, it's like, oh, okay. Well,
When moving on up took him to Mars. He's like, I am
Literally.
moving on up to the deluxe apartment in the sky.
you don't get much more
On
deluxe
fucking Mars.
than fucking Mars.
Let's continue.
Well, I don't think we have much to continue.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. The first couple movies we did, I could even Drive, yeah, watch it. For Paris with Love, okay, you know what you're getting into, but if you could stomach dumb action movies, go ahead and watch it. This, I think, I don't think I'm going out on a limb here to say that this is a universal no. Like, stay away from this movie.
I mean, not even for fun.
Even for fun.
It's
as much fun as I've had, really kind of trying to deconstruct this thing with you guys. I'm not for certain if it was worth watching it as much as I did.
No,
I certainly wouldn't have seen it.
No.
And I hadn't heard
awful.
good things like oh, it's like The Room or Troll 2 or something. Like it was nowhere.
Troll 2.
It was
I haven't heard good
levels
things like
and-
it's like Troll 2.
Well, yeah, a good bad movie. you
Oh,
know?
like
I
a
understand
really
what you're saying.
enjoyable,
It's just-
like grab a 12-pack with your friends and like, hey, let's fucking yell shit at the screen.
Yeah,
like this
no.
is just kind of like.
This was a task.
I fell asleep the first 3 times I tried to watch it, and then the last 2 times I just kind of sort of tried to get through a little bit more every time. It was
What
a
does-
very iterative process.
What does John Carpenter think of this movie?
Oh, he hates it. He quit Hollywood until like 2009 or 10 because he retired. He's like, I've had it. Like this was such a big bomb. That
But does he
quit
understand
Hollywood.
why it was a bomb? I mean,
don't-
does he?
From the interviews that I read, I don't think he understands why. He's just like, oh,
He's just
sucks.
Yeah.
upset with
He
the
wouldn't
fact
talk
that it
about
bombed.
it.
Well,
So-
let's just see here. Let's see
so-
what we find
So
online.
I've got numbers too.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, Roger Ebert gave this a 3 out of 4 stars.
Oh Jesus, that's so wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you know what else got a
Whoa,
3
whoa.
out of 4 stars? The Avengers, like things like that, like just big
Did
movies.
you see the Avengers?
I did.
What'd you think?
Thought it was fun.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I thought it was fun. But
What did you guys think the budget of this movie was?
Oh man, I looked it up, but I forgot.
thought it was like
I'm gonna
20
say
million?
45
Dude.
million.
45, 20, Justin?
I'm gonna come in low, Price is Right style. I'm gonna say
$1.
I want to say this movie.
That's a lot of red
I think
dye.
this movie was made for about $8 million.
Okay, it was. It cost 28 to make, and it made 14 back.
That sounds high. It made a lot.
Yeah,
It
well,
made
I
more
mean,
than I thought it would.
yeah.
But do
I
you
mean,
remember
it was the
whenever the
first like big
previews-
John Carpenter bomb.
Yeah.
You know,
Here's the thing, though. This movie came out the same time that 2 other Mars movies bombed in the theater.
and 9/11.
And 9/11. It came out first. I think it was Red Planet, and then I think it was Mission to Mars,
Mission to Mars.
and then it was
that's
9/11.
What? Which one of those was the one with Tim? What's his name from? Not Green Mile. Shawshank Redemption.
right. Tim Meadows.
Yes,
There's,
Tim Meadows.
there's the talk of a Ghost of Mars 2.
Oh God,
Awesome.
no.
Ghost of Mars 2, The Return, had a Facebook page.
Nice.
Sorry, guys, I made that.
Yes.
How many fans do I have?
You're
Yeah.
petitioning.
Awesome. I'm doing the music again, guys. I'm pretty excited.
Sweet, you're gonna down tune
I've got my
that guitar?
baritone guitar already tuned to drop C.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm ready. I got Monkey from Korn. He's helping me co-write it.
Monkey from Korn.
I hope that's the name of the guy from Korn. Is it
It
really?
is. Yeah, there's a guy in Korn. I think he's a Christian guy now, though.
Yeah, yeah. I think he quit
he's
because he
gonna
found
quit.
Jesus. Yeah.
Okay. Description. This is a page created to generate a demand for a sequel to the 2001 film Ghost of Mars, created by John Carpenter. Together, we fans can breathe life back into this wonderful masterpiece. We shall unite and create a demand for a sequel unlike anything that's ever been seen before.
Yeah,
That much is true.
Yeah, that part's true.
500 million people can't be wrong.
What?
So Facebook, stand up and be heard. Ghost of Mars 2. We've got this. We the people of Facebook has got your back.
Has got.
Has got
It's just
your
one of
back.
those cats trying to play a joke.
Do you think?
Somebody's
The
trolling.
little
Yeah,
cat.
the little cat's
Yeah,
trying to play
yeah.
a joke.
Or do you think it's just Ice Cube?
Or yeah,
I don't think Ice Cube would want any
no.
part of it.
It's
He's
ju-
making way too much money doing family things now.
That's
No,
true.
Natasha Henstridge is like, I need work.
That's probably closer to the truth.
Yeah, that's right.
500 million.
It's really
Where
an
did they get that
allegory
number
for
from?
eating addiction and
Yeah.
all of those things.
She should not have tried to take their planet.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
man.
yeah, I looked at some of the cast. Like, it was a lot of people's very first movie that they were ever credited on IMDb, and a lot of people's very last movie that they were accredited.
I think the only
On
people that
IMDb.
came out of this was Ice Cube and Jason Statham.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were the only two to escape.